We have had these core topics outlined and discussed for several years, and I think it's worth taking the time to consider why these are the topics that were chosen, aside from the fact that these are disease processes that are seen on a daily basis, and any one of these could be a call that is run even as I talk. Each topic listed assumes underlying knowledge in various aspects of anatomy and physiology, and as we dig into discussion, it can shine a light on where there may be knowledge deficits or misunderstandings. To the point, I would like to take a few minutes and talk about the interaction between a core topic and presumed knowledge. We all enter this profession with knowledge deficits that are difficult to account for, and the idea is that we're going to start each of these conversations with near entry-level knowledge, then continue to dig. This approach can help account for these deficits. I think a great place to begin is blood flow through the heart. So we have venous return through the vena cava into the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, which is ejected through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery and into the pulmonary system. In the pulmonary system, we have gas exchange, and oxygenated blood is returned to the heart through the pulmonary veins into the left atrium. The blood is then ejected through the mitral valve into the left ventricle. The left ventricle then contracts, ejecting the blood through the aortic valve into the aorta and into circulation. It's worth noting that the valves of the heart ensure that the flow of blood occurs in only one direction. The tricuspid and mitral valves are referred to as the atrioventricular valves, and the pulmonary and aortic valves are referred to as the semilunar valves. During ventricular systole, the atrioventricular valves are closed and the semilunar valves are open. During ventricular diastole, the atrioventricular valves are open and the semilunar valves are closed. During ventricular diastole, the coronary arteries supply oxygenated blood to the myocardium. It's easy to dismiss a simple discussion, but to talk about shock, CHF, CPR, STEMI, acute coronary syndrome, and arrhythmias, we need to understand something as simple as the flow of blood through the heart. When we talk about the core topics, we have several that share the same concepts of cardiac function. Understanding preload, contractility, afterload, and systemic vascular resistance is necessary to explain these core topics. We can discuss each of these with simple parameters and then define them further as we discuss derangements associated with each of the topics. Preload is the end diastolic volume in the left or right ventricle. In order to have adequate output, the heart needs to be filled properly. This is outlined in Starling's law, which states that the greater the stretch of the cardiac muscle, the greater the force of contraction, up to a point. Contractility is the heart's ability to contract and move blood into the pulmonary system or into systemic circulation. The myocardium's ability to contract effectively depends on multiple variables and represents the stroke volume portion of the cardiac output equation. Cardiac output equals stroke volume times heart rate. A few other concepts worth mentioning are ICP, MAP, and CVP. Intracranial pressure is a measurement of the pressure of brain tissue and the cerebrospinal fluid that cushions and surrounds the brain and spinal cord. Mean arterial pressure is an account of the pressure of the blood circulating through the arteries. Central venous pressure being a measurement of the pressure in the large veins of the body. Again, while this only scratches the surface, the point is to note that before we even give a basic definition to one of the core topics, there's a lot of information that is easy to take for granted and could potentially lead to inadequate explanation. To conclude today's talk, my goal is to divide each of these topics into discussion points to help us all better understand. Thanks for your time. Good night.